Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about your brain and how it's wired to operate. Now, in case you guys haven't figured out yet, I like talking about the brain. Everything that I do always references back to how our brains are designed to operate. And like it or not, our brains were not designed for success.
Hey, I'm Michelle Reese, founder of the Align Agent Academy, where I get to help agents like you create a multi-figure business by increasing productivity and reducing the overwhelm. And today, I'm going to show you how.
They weren't designed to help us show up on social media or to beat out our competition or to push past those fears that we have, right? And really do those scary things that are going to help us succeed. The brain's number one job is not success. It's to keep you safe and to keep things efficient. Anytime you encounter something new, something unfamiliar or scary, your brain's safety switch gets activated. And when it gets activated, it sets those alarm bells off and it puts your brain on high alert. What happens when we start activating those limiting beliefs and we start to believe that something's too hard for us, or that we're not ready, or that we don't have what it takes? What happens when we think these thoughts? I want to hear from you. So, what happens when we think these thoughts? Nothing. Nothing happens. And that's how your brain keeps you safe. It holds you back. Now, here's what I want you to remember. Safe is really up for interpretation, right? Obviously, walking down a dark alley in the middle of the night poses some risk or danger, right? But what does, posting your video on social media have to do with that? Or knocking on the door? I want you to recognize that you determine what is safe and what isn't when it comes to your business, okay? And because interpretation is up to us, you have full control over how you choose to see things, okay? There is never just one perception. What I really want you guys to know and remember is your brain is not wired for success. It's wired to keep you safe and keep things efficient. Now, because that is its primary job, it would make sense then that it has its own mechanisms in place for helping you do that, right? The negative thoughts show up because they're protective in nature. But what about productivity and efficiency? Here's what I want you to start understanding is when it comes to productivity and efficiency, your brain, just like it has the negative thoughts to keep you safe, has two internal mechanisms or brain processes, however you want to label them, in place to help you keep things efficient. And the very first one is known as automation or autopilot. Here's the reality. Our brains are a machine and they control far more than we actually give it credit for. Now, because it's responsible for so many things, like think about how many things your brain does, right? It uses actually about 80% of the energy that we consume on a daily basis. Now think about it. Your brain keeps you breathing, it keeps your heart beating, it keeps your body temperature regulated, let alone, all the thinking that it does. And God knows how much we think and overthink and get ourselves into things, right? I want you to imagine for a moment that, just getting out of bed. Imagine if we had to consciously think and process every single smell, sight, sensation that we were feeling, right? The sensation of the sheets on our skin, the smells in the air, the way the light hits certain things and reflects. If we had to think about and process every single piece of stimulation on top of thinking about, what muscle needs to contract, which one needs to flex so that I can raise my arm up, right? It can do all of these things because of automation, because of the autopilot mechanism. If your autopilot came with a set of instructions, it would probably say something like, anything you repeat often enough, Michelle, is going to get automated. Okay? It will get moved from the conscious brain, which is you thinking about doing it, and into the subconscious brain, where it can happen automatically. Whatever it is that you think and do repeatedly will get moved from the conscious thinking brain to the subconscious automated brain. Now, why does it do that? It does this to conserve energy. When autopilot takes over any of the tasks that we do repeatedly or any of the thoughts that we think repeatedly, less energy is used, which means there's more in the reserve for you to use for other things. And when you have more energy, do you agree that you can do more? One of the ways that you can hack your brain's natural mechanism is to recognize that what you repeat, you automate. What you automate, you create. So your brain will automate thoughts, beliefs, and actions, right? And if it sees that you're repeating and reinforcing them, it's going to happen even quicker. So one of the ways that you can help to improve efficiency is to look at what are the thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors you currently are doing on repeat. And then really looking at which ones you need to reprogram for the things that you actually need to do. Okay, so this is really what I'm describing to you guys is really the process of creating habits. So the more that you repeat and reinforce a behavior, the more your brain sees it as something important, and the more it's going to want to help you to conserve energy and automate it. So what habits are we looking at? What you think about every day is a habit. What you believe about yourself every day and your business is a habit. If you want to be more productive in your business, more productive in your life, the two easiest places to start are to look at your morning and your night routines. Okay? I want you to think about that. Now, secondary question, part 2 of the question when it comes to your morning routine. On a scale of 1 to 10, how productive would you say your morning routine is? Because your morning and your nights are super important times for you and your brain and ultimately that level of success, okay? Everything that you give your brain, if you understand one thing about your brain at night, it filters and processes information, just like your body does all its restorative and healing and all the other things that it needs to do. During the nighttime is when your brain filters, processes. It's why we sometimes think about things and wake up in the middle of the night going, oh my God, did I forget to do that? Right? Because it's doing its job. So morning and night are super sensitive times for your brain. Probably one of the most important times, though, when it comes to productivity and success. In fact, I'd probably say your nighttime routine is probably maybe something, if you're going to start anywhere, I would probably start with that. Because really, despite popular belief, your day does not start the moment you open your eyes in the morning. It starts the night before. Okay, what you do at night matters. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail right now, but if you are curious to learn more about how to set up a really productive nighttime routine, I actually did a whole podcast YouTube episode on this, and I talked about how to set yourself up, what happens in the brain, and I've given you some ideas on how to really set up a nighttime routine that's productive for you. So mechanism number 2 is the pleasure reward mechanism. Now, we know that we have to be persistent and consistent to achieve our goals, right? And we know that our habits, whether they're thoughts or actions, impact this. To help make this process easier for you and to help you really understand why you continue to do the things that you do, even when they're not productive, is to really understand that your brain comes equipped with a pleasure reward center. Okay. When you engage in a behavior and your pleasure reward center is activated, it releases neurochemicals that make you feel good. And what happens when we feel good? We want to end up repeating that. So the thing I want you to remember about your reward center is that it doesn't know the difference between a good behavior or a bad behavior, or a good habit or a bad habit, okay? Whenever your brain recognizes an achievement, meaning you've actually accomplished a goal, good or bad, it releases neurochemicals like dopamine. Now, dopamine is a naturally occurring chemical in the body, and it's known as the feel-good chemical. When it gets released, it acts like a reward, and it helps to create a neural pathway in the brain that actually reinforces that original behavior that you did to have it released. And this is why we end up continuing to repeat bad habits and repeat the things that we do, because there's a payoff. All right? Now, here's what's important. There are 2 pathways that we can activate that reward center to get that hit of dopamine when it comes to our goals in business. And I'm going to describe them both for you, okay? The very first pathway is you set a goal, you complete the task, you check it off your list, and your brain says, thank you. And it releases dopamine, which makes you feel good so that you'll come back and do it again, okay? So that was pathway number 1. Pathway number 2, you set a goal. Might be a little scary or overwhelming. You contemplate on it, you obsess over it, you create all of this buildup until you decide, I'm not doing that. At which point you go, whew, and your brain says, thank goodness we escaped that. Thank you. And it releases dopamine. Okay? Do you see it? Do you see how, first of all, do you see the difference between the two? The actions were the same. One, you had a sigh, because you accomplished it. The other one, you had a sigh and because you accomplished it by avoiding it. There's a payoff. Now, I want you to start noticing where this plays out in your life. Where, when you torture yourself with thoughts like, oh, I have to do this, I don't want to do this, and then you avoid it, you get the reward. Do you see how it plays out when you're about to sit down and do your lead follow-ups? And then you notice from the corner of your eye, you have a new Facebook message or alert. Here's what I want you to notice. This reward center gets activated either way. It can reinforce an avoidance behavior, or it can reinforce a productive behavior, because there's a payoff with both. You have the power to choose which path you're going to follow. Or you can choose to commit to your tasks without distraction, focus on your work, and then, and this is where the shift comes in, you treat social media as the reward. You need to be intentional about how you set yourself up. Okay, instead of allowing yourself to be rewarded for unproductive behavior, like giving into that urge of checking your phone, you can reposition that urge and use it as a reward. And here's what that would look like. It's you turning off your phone, turning off the notifications, flipping it upside down, whatever you need to do so that you don't get distracted. And then once you complete your task, you turn to that thing as your reward. So let me just do a quick recap. We got what you repeat, you automate. What you automate, you create. So those daily habits that you're doing, those morning routine, those nighttime routines, that's the very first place to start. If you want to start creating more productivity and really hacking your brain's natural mechanism, start looking at the daily habits that you're engaged in. Okay, so that was number one. Number two was hack your brain's natural reward system. And you do that by being intentional and by setting up rewards in response to a task. Your brain needs the reward. It needs to feel a sense of accomplishment for it to release dopamine. And we want the dopamine. Okay? So let me know if that all makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions. Drop your comments right now.
Don't forget to subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and of course, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I look forward to seeing you guys back here, same time, same place next week. Bye for now.